So in our previous session, so we have seen how to work with the different type of colors, and then we have seen how to work with the frames, and then how to switch between the multiple browser windows. So today we are going to see a few more type of elements. But before going to discuss some more elements, so I will show you some other type of alert window. So which is also basically a kind of pop-up window, which is basically called as a notification pop-up. Okay, sometimes you will see that kind of pop-up on your web pages. Now I'll show you what kind of pop-up it is and how to handle it. So which is basically called as a notification pop-up. Okay, but you will not see for every type of application, but sometimes for specific type of applications you will see that. So let me just open this URL. So whatmylocation.com, and you can just look at this website. As soon as you launch your website, you can see a small pop-up here, and which contains two buttons, allow and block. So this is also one type of pop-up, but actually this is not comes from your application. Okay, this is come from the browser itself. And you can see, you can just look at here in the top bottom, it's a available in the top of the page, and which contains two different buttons, allow and block. So this kind of pop-up boxes are called as a notification pop-ups or notification alerts. So until unless we handle this, we cannot proceed to perform any further action. Okay, so to do this, what we can do is we cannot handle this directly by using alert commands. Okay, we cannot switch to this alert, and this is basically pop-up. Okay, so which is come from the it's not come from the application, which is come from the browser, and not even it is not even like authenticated pop-up, so we cannot even bypass this. Okay, so there are two ways it is not possible. One is we cannot use alert commands to close this pop-up. The second thing is we cannot directly bypass this, or we cannot directly inject anything on the URL to bypass this pop-up. But there is one more way to handle this pop-up, that is by disabling these notifications. So we can disable this notification window at the browser level, and through automation code we can do that. Okay, and for that we need to add some settings at the browser level. Whenever trying to launch your browser through our automation, at that time we have to add some more attribute, like we will add service object, right, at the time of launching the Chrome browser. Similarly, we will also add some other attributes, and by adding those attributes we can just uh, avoid this window. Just we can just the notification window not at all appear, so we can just bypass it. Okay, that's the only way we can handle this pop-up window. Okay, but we cannot directly interact with these elements, and we cannot directly bypass it. Only through browser settings it is possible. Okay, now I'll show you a simple example. Let's see. Create a new Python new directory. I'll say day 19. I'll name it as new Python file notification pop-up. Okay, so normally we will create a Webdriver, import Webdriver from Selenium, and then service object also will import, right? So normally what you will do is you will just create a service object like this, and now we will create a Webdriver instance. How we will create a Webdriver instance? Driver equal to Webdriver dot Chrome, and here we will pass the service object. I say service equal to, right, so service equal to, we will pass the service object. So this particular statement will launch your browser. This particular statement will launch your browser. Just a moment. Okay, this is a driver instance. So this particular statement will launch your browser, and then we'll start opening the application. I'll say driver dot get, and then specify this URL of application. Okay, now just observe what happens. As soon as you launch your application, I'll also maximize this window. Driver dot maximize underscore window. I have not applied any new settings, and just I launched my browser here, and then I open my application URL and then maximize this window. Now let's observe what happens. I'm just running this script, and it is launched my application. It is still loading. It is taking some time, so just hold on. Okay, so now it is actually maximized, but it is not given any location related option here, right? It is not given any location related pop-up, but somehow it is not given because I have run this multiple times earlier. Maybe the browser is remembered that option. So normally when you launch your browser like this, you will see the notification like this. Okay, so here, when I do this manually, you will get it. Close this, again, open the browser. Okay, let me just clean up everything and then let me run one more time. Let me just run the script one more time. Okay, so we didn't get the pop-up window, but sometimes you will see this pop-up window because I have done this multiple times, so it is not appearing now. So normally you will get the pop-up window. So when you open the same link manually, so you are getting that. So let me just open this window and I'm just opening this manually. I think this is actually blocked it. Just enabling this. Okay, let me just open one more time. Okay, so now I have some plugin here. So I think that is blocking my pop-up. So no problem. So when you see this particular pop-up, right? So what you can do is we need to just add one type of options. So we need to create something called Chrome options. Okay. So when we have to create, before creating the service object, before doing all these things. So here we are launching the browser, right? So before that, we have to create something called Webdriver. Okay, Webdriver. And inside this, we have a special class called as a Chrome options. So basically this particular class, okay, basically this particular class will use to specify the browser level settings. Okay, like we can disable the pop-ups, and suppose sometimes we will execute our automation test script in headless mode, means without seeing any browser. I want to execute my test case as a backend. So if you want to apply those type of settings, we use this Chrome options. In the later on, I will discuss more about this. But for now, you guys have asked this question, just I'm addressing it. Okay, so Chrome options, and I just created an object, webdriver.chrome options. And this will return something like options object. I'm just creating some variable, let's say OPS. Okay, so I'll just create one variable called options. I say OPS. Now, just like this, okay, we created service object, right? So similarly, OPS object also required. OPS object also required. Now, when I launch your browser like this, we are passing only service object, right? So along with the service object, we need to also pass this options object inside the Chrome browser class by separating comma, use keyword called options equal to specify this OPS. So along with the service object, we will also specify these options. But what we need to add something to these options. We just created an object here. So we need to add settings. So what is the setting we need to add? OPS dot, there is a method called add underscore argument. So here we need to pass one parameter to disable those type of notifications. So to disable those notifications, we say hyphen disable hyphen notifications. So this is a parameter we have to pass. Now these are the only two additional steps we have to create. Okay, so webdriver.chrome options, which will create an object, and inside the object, by using this object, we need to set one argument for the browser level, disable notifications, and then we have to pass this OPS here along with the service object. Okay, so along with the service object, by separating comma, we will also pass this option object here by using keyword options equal to OPS. Now this particular setting, what happens as soon as you launch this particular website, this will automatically disable the type of pop-ups, and then you will able to proceed with that. Okay, so this is how we can just handle the notification pop-ups, which is basically called as a notification pop-ups, but every time you will not get. So on my browser there are some settings are available, so because of that reason sometimes it is appearing, sometimes it is not. And if you are getting that kind of pop-up notification pop-up, you will able to disable it by adding this argument. Okay, simply what you do, Webdriver or Chrome options class object we create. By using this object, by calling add underscore argument method, we have to set one parameter, disable notifications, and then we have to pass these options when you launching your browser in this statement. That's it. So as soon as you launch your browser, if there are any notification or pop-ups like that, this particular statement will disable it. So which is not at all appear on your browser. Okay. So now let me execute one more time. Basically it will not accept or it will not block. Okay, just it will ignore and it will proceed further. It is basically disable that notification. So disable means it will not appear first of all. So it is not meaning like we are not accepting it, and also we are not denying it, or we are not blocking it. It is just disable that notification at the browser level. So this is the one more option which is having. So if you find any other type of notification pop-ups like this, you can just disable it. Okay, so this is all about notification pop-up. So this is asked by Rashmi, so I have just given one example for that. If you see these kind of pop-ups, notification pop-ups, so you will able to handle by just adding these parameters. Okay, all right. So one more topic called, today's topic is how to handle web table. How to handle web table. And most important concept, please listen carefully. So how to handle web table. So sometimes in our application, you may see some kind of data in the tabular format. So we do different type of operations on the web tables, or which is also called as a HTML table. And these web tables are two types, so static web table and dynamic web table. So static web table in the sense what? Static web table always data is static. Say every time when you open the table, you can see the same type of data, which is basically called as a static web table. And the dynamic web table in the sense whenever you see the table, the data will be different. So data is always keep updating. That is called dynamic web table. Static web table and dynamic web table. So I'll show you how to work with them, static web table and dynamic table. But before that, we need to understand what is web table, how it will be on your application, what are the different tags are available for the web table, and how we can represent the rows, how we can represent the columns, headers, data. A lot of things are in this web table. So we need to understand that first. Okay. So for that, I'm just taking one sample table, which is basically static web table. We'll start with the static web table, then I'll show you dynamic web table. So let's go to your application. Okay, so here in this particular page, you can see at the bottom of the page, you can see a small table is available. So this is basically table, and which contains different book names, author, subject, and price. So this data is aligned in this table. Now on this table, we will perform different type of operations, like how to count number of rows in a table, how to count number of columns in a table, or how to read a specific row data or specific row and column data from the cell. And suppose I want to read all the rows from a table, all the columns from a table, or based on certain condition, how we can retrieve the data from the table. So all these things we can do on this table. Okay, so now we'll see how we can work with this table. And basically, let us see what are the tag names are available for this table. When you try to inspect this table, and in the HTML, you can see something called table tag. So whenever you see the table tag in the HTML, that is always representing the table. And here there is an attribute called name equal to book table. Sometimes you may not have any attributes. Sometimes you may see only the tag name, and sometimes you can see one attribute or multiple attributes. but currently this table is having some name, that is book table. Now, if I just look at this in the table, this is a starting tag. Okay, this is the ending tag. And inside this, there is one more tag called T body. So what is the T body is representing? T body tag is representing the whole body of your table, the whole body of the table. Now, if I just expand the TD tag, you can see multiple TRs here. So there are multiple TRs are there. So each TR representing table row. TR is nothing but table row. So when I move my cursor on each and every TR, it is highlighting the particular row on a table. You can just look at here. So every TR is representing one entire row. Now, if I just expand the first TR, then you can see TH tag. TH is nothing but table header. And here there are headers are there, book name, author, subject, price. These are called headers of the table. So TH is a tag which is representing header. So this is actually available in the first row itself. First row itself is having header. So in the first TR, you can see 5 TH tags are there. So each TH tag is representing header of the particular table, each header of the particular table. So this first header is book name, second is author, subject, and price. From the second TR, actual data is started, right? From the second TR, second row, actual data is started. Now we expand the second TR, you can see TD tag. TD is nothing but table data, table data. Now we can just look at all the data is available inside the TD. So this is my first data, second Amit, third data, and fourth data. So TDs are representing table data. So from the second tier onwards, in every tier, TD tags are available. So actual data is inserted inside the table data tags. Okay, this is actual structure of the table in HTML. In HTML, this is the actual structure of the table. So table, inside this T body, inside this number of TRs are there. Each TR tag is representing a table row. And first TR, which contains only headers, so TH is there. From the second TR, actual TD tag is there. So TD is representing table data. So this is the basic understanding which we need to have on the table. And mostly we will use XPath here. So we have to write customized XPaths and to work with the data on the table. Okay. So let me just show you something. We are going to learn something new here. And in the XPath, we can also pass the parameters inside the XPath. Dynamically, we can pass the parameters. So we can call it as a dynamic XPath. So which we have to create here. Now let's see step by step. So go back to your PyCharm and creating a new Python file, web table 1. All right. So inside this, I'm just writing normal stuff. I'm just copying this part. So imported Webdriver, imported service, imported by class, and then service object created, and launching my browser, launching my application, and then maximize this window. All right. Now I'll perform different type of operations here. So what are the operations I will perform here is, the first operation is I'll count number of rows and columns in a table. How to count number of rows and columns in a table. Second thing is I want to read a specific row and column data from a table. Then read all the rows and columns of the data, all rows and columns data from a table. And then finally read the data based on certain condition. For example, I want to list all book names whose author is Mukesh. For example, I have multiple book names are there, but I want to get only book names whose those books are written by Mukesh. There are only 2 books are there which are written by Mukesh. So I just want to print only those 2 books which are written by Mukesh. That means based on condition, we can also retrieve the data from a table. So conditional based retrieval of data from a table. So that we will see as a one operation. Okay. So let us see one by one. The first thing is how to count number of rows and columns. That's the first thing. Let us start with here. So how to count number of rows and columns from a table. So it's very simple. So what we have to do is we already launch our applications. Go to your application. How to find number of rows and columns in a table. What we need to do is if you want to count number of rows, simply what we can do is we can just find number of TRs, right? So in the T body, we have multiple TRs are there. If I capture every TR is representing one web element, every tag is representing one web element. So we can capture all the TR tags, right? And we can find how many are there. That is exactly equal to number of rows, right? So now we need to write one XPath, which is exactly pointing to all the TRs, which will capture all the TRs from a table. Now let me write one XPath here. So go to selector hub and let me just find the table first. Go to the table and this is given a basic XPath. So / table, table is a tag name and attribute is name equal to book name. So this is exactly pointing to the table, the whole table. But we don't need only table, we need number of TRs. So inside the table, we have a T body tag. So go to T body. Okay, now it is pointing to table body. Now inside the T body, there are so many TRs are there. So I'm just writing only one TR. Now what happens? 7 elements are matching. That means 7 rows are matching. But I want to highlight only first row. Then what I can do? I can pass one index number here. Then it is pointing to first row, which is header part. Now I want to point second one. So it is pointing to second row and third row, fourth row. So by just changing the index number, we can point multiple rows like this. Okay, so T body of TR of 5. So then we can say TR of 6 and then TR of 7. So now you can just see as soon as you change your index, multiple rows are highlighted. So now I need all the rows, not only specific rows. So don't specify any index and by default, this XPath is matching with all the rows in a table. Now let us capture this. Okay. And suppose if you just want to avoid this T body because it's a link, right? So simply you can just avoid it, but it will not identify. If I just want to avoid the T body, what I can do? I can use // right? Because it will go and directly jump into the TRs. Relative XPath. I have shown you this in the previous previous session. So if I want to skip the middle tags, we can simply say // But if you want to say single slash, which will not give you anything, 0 elements. In that case, you need to write the T body / TR you have to write. And T body, if you want to avoid, you can simply say // TR. Now this will give you exactly how many total number of rows present in your table. Now capture it. And here driver dot find underscore element or elements, right? Because that XPath is matching with multiple TRs, multiple web elements. By dot XPath, specify that XPath. So this will give you all the TRs, multiple TRs it will return. That means multiple web elements. But I don't need all the web elements. I need count. Simply you can use one length function here. Length of, put everything here. So I have just written shortcut way. So what I have done here is I can simply return this one. So this will basically what this will do. This will basically return all the TRs from a table. And once it get all the TRs, and what length function will do, which will count how many TRs are there. And that value I'm storing in a variable called number of rows. So this is a variable which is created. And similarly, let us try to find the number of columns in a table. How to find the number of columns in a table. So how to count number of columns in a table. So let me just go back to the same. So till here, it will just pointing to the table. One element is matching the whole table. Now I need to find only number of columns. So number of columns in the sense, if we find total number of headers, that is exactly equal to number of columns, right? But where exactly the headers are there in the table? In the first TR. The first TR, TH tags are there. So if you count how many THs are there, that is exactly equal to number of columns in a table, right? So we need to find out total number of TH tags are there in the first TR. So how we can get it? So inside the T body / T body, inside the first TR of 1, inside this TH is there. So TH. Now observe, 4 elements are matched. So this is exactly written 4 elements. That means 4 headers. That means what? 4 columns are there. But again, I just want to avoid these things. So T body, I just want to avoid. So what I can do is remove it, and instead of single slash, use double slash. Okay. And then this will give you 4 elements still. But if you remove this index, what happens? So still it will give you 4 elements. Why? Because when I say if I don't specify any index in the TR, by default, it will go to the first TR only. So by default, it will go to the first TR. So inside the book table, it is navigated to TR tags. There are multiple TR tags are there. But I say again slash TH. But in which TR, TH will be getting here. So because I have not specified any index here, no index. That's the reason by default, it will go to first TR. And inside the TR, there is only one TH tags are there. So which is getting 4 elements. Okay. Now this is how we can get it. So if you want to use specify the index, you can still specify the index. Still 4 elements we captured. That is exactly headers. And that is exactly equal to number of columns in a table. Now use this XPath. Now the same thing, driver dot find elements by dot XPath, specify the XPath. So this will return all the table headers, multiple table headers. But I want to count how many are there. So for that, I'm using a length function. And this will return total number of columns. So I say number of columns. So now we find out the total number of rows and total number of columns. Now let us print those values. Print number of rows and print number of columns. Now after that, I will close my browser. Driver dot close. Now run it. Okay, so now we can see 7 number of rows it is written 7, and this is written 4, including header. 7 is representing the total number of rows, which includes the header part also. And total number of columns, we have 4. And these values we will use later to read all the data from the table. Okay, so this is the first operation which you have done. So how to find or how to count number of rows in rows and columns in a table. So we have find out. So total number of TRs we have counted, and total number of THs are there in the table we have counted, and then we got these values. Now the next one, read specific row and column data. How to read a specific row and column data. So how to read specific row and column data means we have to write a proper XPath, and accordingly we can get the value. So let me just write the proper XPath. So now again inspect the table. Okay, go to the table tag and go to the selector hub, and this is given basic XPath which is pointing to the table. Now I want to capture a value from specific row and specific column. So for example, I want to capture master in Selenium. So this is the value I want to capture. So where exactly it is? It is there in which row? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th row. And in which column? First column. So 5th row, first column. Right. So we need to go to the 5th TR and first column. Now if I just look at the table inside the T body, 5th TR, which one is the 5th one? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is the one. And inside this, there are TD tags are there. In which TD that value is available? First TD with the value is available. Okay. Now we need to write proper XPath here. Listen carefully. So this particular XPath is pointing to the table. Inside the table, we have a T body. Go to T body. Now inside the T body, which row that value is available? In the 7th row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th row. So in the T body, there are multiple TRs are there. 7 TRs are there. But in which TR we have to navigate? Which TR we have to navigate? 5th one. So we have to say index is 5th. Now it is exactly pointing to the 5th row in a table. Now inside the 5th row, which column we need? First column. So what is the column is representing with the TD tag? So I'll say /TD. Again, if you say only TD here, this is pointing to all the columns in the same row, because there are multiple TD tags are there here. But which value we need? Master in Selenium. So there's a first TD value. So here we specify index as 1. Now we can see it is exactly pointing to master in Selenium. So just we need to pass the row number and a column number, and that will give you the value. And suppose similarly, I want to get something called Java subject column. I want to get a Java. So how we can write an XPath? In which row it is available? 1, 2, 3. So third row. So go to the third row first. And in which column it is available? 1, 2, third column. So just say 3 here. Now it is pointing to Java, one element. So just by passing the row number and column number, we can extract specific value from the specific row and specific column. Okay. Now I want to get master in Selenium. So that is available in the 5th row and first column. So now I capture this one single value. I'm using this XPath now. Go back. Driver dot find elements or find element. Find element, because we are capturing one single element. So find element by dot XPath. Specify that XPath. So this will return an element. And from that web element, we have to extract the text value. So this is just a web element it is pointing. But inside this web element, this is the text value, inner text, which we need to capture. So how to capture the text of the inner text of the web element? By using text keyword. By using text keyword. Right? By using text keyword. So that I'm storing here. I'll create one variable called data and then print data. So now we'll see what is the value we will capture. So we captured actually master in Selenium. So this is the value we captured. Let's run and see what is the value it will return. All right. So now we can see master in Selenium. So we got the value which is present in the 5th row and first column. So similarly, if you want to get any other value from any row, from any column, just we need to change the row number and the table data number. TD is representing the column. And the rest of the XPath is still same. Okay. So this is how we can read specific row and column data from a table. Now the next operation. So I want to read all the rows and all columns. I want to read all the rows and columns data. So then how we can do that? So for now, I'm just commenting this. So read all the rows and columns data. So actually this will read only a specific row and a specific column data here. But I want to read all the rows and all columns data. So for that, we need to write a looping statement. So we need to write a looping statement. So we need to know how many columns are there, how many rows are there. And then we have to write 2 different loop statements. 2 different loop statements we have to write. So one loop statement is for incrementing the rows. And another loop statement is for incrementing the columns. For each row, there are multiple columns are there. First, we will focus on the first row. Then we'll read all the columns. And then we focus on the second row. Then read all the columns. Then focus on the third row and then read all the columns. So for incrementing each row, we use one for loop. Inside this, we will write one more for loop, which will read all the columns data from the specific row. Okay. So now let's see how we can write it. So we already captured the rows and number of rows and number of columns. So let me just write a looping statement. So basically I'm writing one simple print statement here, like say printing all the rows and columns data. Okay. Now let me just write one for loop, which is representing the number of rows, which is representing the rows. So what I can do is for R, okay, in, I'm just saying range function here. Okay, R in range, and here I will say starting point and ending point. How many times we have to repeat the rows? It depends on the number of rows, right? So how many rows are there? 7 rows are there. 7 rows are there. But in the first row is a header part. The first row is a header. I just want to ignore it. So I want to start from the second row. So I'll say starting point is 2. Now, how many times we have to repeat? So depends on the number of rows. So total number of rows are there. How many total number of rows we have? 7 rows we have. So total 7 times we have to repeat. But when you specify this number of rows here, which will not count the last value, because the range function will not get the last value. So we need to do +1, and then only it will take 7 also. If I just +1, it will take 7 also, because it will always take n-1, right? So if I consider number of rows is n, and 7 will not take. So if you want to consider 7 also, then we have to say number of rows +1. So this is a one loop, and which will responsible for incrementing the rows. Now inside this, I will write one more for loop, which is representing the number of columns in each row. So now we got one row here, one row number. Now inside that particular row, I am writing one more for loop. Let's say C variable, again in range function. And where you have to start here? Here we no need to avoid any column. So I want to get values from each column. So let's start from 1, comma. How many times the columns we have to repeat depends on the number of columns. Then specify it. So total number of columns written is 4, but 4 will not be considered. It will always take -1 till 3 it will consider. So for that reason, we need to also add +1. Range function will work like that. So now from the first column, we want to get every column in the table. And this is a inner for loop. Now inside this, we have to write an XPath which will exactly capture the particular row and column value. So for example, here I'm just copying the same data here, same statement. Because previously when you want to extract a specific row and column data, we have written this statement. So here just we pass a row number and column number and extract that value. And here also we have to just pass the row number and column number dynamically. So we have to pass a dynamic value instead of hard coding this data like 5 and 1. Every time when the loop is repeating, every time I will pass the R value, C value inside this XPath. That is basically called as a parameterizing the data into XPath. Or we can pass the parameters or arguments into XPath. And then that XPath becomes a dynamic XPath. Okay, so if I just say 5 and 1, this is static data. Every time it will get only 5th row and first column data. But I want to get the data from all the columns and all the rows. So then what I will do is, first time it will take R value 2 and then C value 1. And for R value 2, right? So in the second row, C value will be repeated multiple times, 4 times. And every time I want to get the new data. So the R value, C value, we have to inject into this XPath. That means we have to pass this R and C values into this XPath, because R representing the row and C representing the column number, right? So now how we can pass this R and C inside the XPath? And simple we can do is, we can say instead of 5, just specify the R, and instead of 1, specify the C. But this will not allow us. So XPath will not allow us to specify the variables. R and C are the variables, right? So we cannot directly pass like this. So we have to follow a syntax. If you want to pass the parameters into XPath, we have to follow a certain syntax. So what is that syntax we have to follow? So whenever you say R here, first convert that into string format. So by using str function like this. And same thing for C also, convert this into string format. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing is, keep this entire value like this into double quotations here and here. Okay, and same thing like this here and here. Second step is over. Now the third step is, keep one plus before str after completion of the function. And here also before str 1 plus, after completion of str 1 more plus. So 3 things we have to mention. First, convert this R value into str and C value also. and then include that entire thing in the double quotation like this, or single quotation is also fine. And after that, use plus operator before and after, and then only these values will be passed into XPath dynamically. This is a syntax. So nothing to do anything here. So we have to just convert that R value and C value into string format, and then we will impose those values, or we will pass those values as a parameters inside the XPath. So this is a syntax we have to follow. But if you directly substitute this R and C values here, it will not work. So XPath cannot take the variables, and we have to extract the data from the variables, and then we will pass the data into the XPath. Okay, so just remember this syntax, most important. And now text value. So now we can just look at this. This becomes a dynamic XPath, because every time C value will be changing and R value also changing. First time R value becomes 2 and C value will become 1, 2, 3, 4 after completion of the inner for loop 4 times, and then it will go to outer for loop, and outer for loop will again increment by 1. Now again inner for loop execute 4 times, and data will be getting from the table, and after completion of this particular row data, then it will go to another row and again read all the columns and print the data. So by the time this particular, we have to print the data also, right? So we can just print the data after getting it. Print data. Okay, print data. So after completion of this loop, we will able to see all the data from the table. Why? Because every time we are passing the row number, column number dynamically inside the XPath. Now let us execute and see. Okay, now it is done. You can just look at here. We got all the data. So printing all the rows and columns data. So I think this is the first row, and this is the second row, third row, fourth row, and fifth row, sixth, because one row is header part. So we have ignored totally 6 rows we got. But again, if you want to print this in the tabular format, exactly in the same format, we have to just change the format. So print the data, and here you can do one thing. So I can say comma, you have to give some space between the value and another value. Let me just print like this. So after completion of this inner loop, I want to jump to the next row, right? So for that, what you can do is you can just try to only print function like this, empty print function. Basically, it will directly jump to the next row, just for changing the format, nothing else. Okay, let me just run it once again. Now you can see data in the tabular format. Right, so now you can just look at this. So this is actually one row, second row, third row, fourth row, and fifth row. So print command is just jumped into the next rows after printing the whole column data. But I want to print this column data side by side, not like this. So book name and other, like it is printed like this, right? Instead of printing like this, I want to print side by side. All the columns data I want to see in one row. So here we need to modify. So we can just use one variable called end equal to, and give some tab space, whatever you want. How much space you want between those two values in the column values, you can just specify some space here by using end keyword. So what this will do is, which will print all column data in the single row instead of multiple rows. Let's execute now. And this time it will print all the data in the exactly in the tabular format. Okay, now you can just look at this. So now this is the first row, second row, third row, fourth row, fifth, and sixth row. Because they have given a lot of space here. So this space is applicable in everywhere. Right, so this is how we can just read all the data from the table. That means all the rows and all the columns. So the main important thing here is how to pass the data into the XPath. How we can write the dynamic XPath by passing the values into XPath. That's the most important thing. All right, so this is a one requirement. So read all the rows and columns data. Now we will see this one. So this is something interesting. So read data based on the condition. So I want to list, or I want to print only book names whose author is Mukesh. Now this is a conditional based. We have to retrieve the data. So I'll just commenting this. Okay, so I'm just see this. I just want to read the data based on certain condition. So let's try to analyze the table first. So here, what is my requirement is I want to get the book names whose author is Mukesh. And what is the condition here? Author is Mukesh, right? So on which column it is, where the author names are available in the second column. So now what we need to do is we have to read each and every author name from each and every row. We have to read author name and compare that author name with the Mukesh or not. If author name equal to Mukesh, then from the same row, get the value of the book name and print it. If author name is not equal to Mukesh, then go to the next author name. If it is not equal, then go to the next author name. If it is not equal, then again go to the next author name. And wherever it is matched, and immediately go and get the name of the book and print it. So this is also should happen through looping statement, because we need to read each and every author from every row in a table. And we need only two columns here, author column and book name. We don't need to do anything with other columns. So author column is a second column, book name is a first column. Remember this. So based on this, we need to build the logic. Go to the PyCharm and first let me write a loop which will repeat the number of rows. Okay, because we need to get all the author names one by one. That's the first activity. So let me write one for loop. So for R in, I'm using range function again, range. I'm starting from the 2 because first part is a header row. First row is a header. So I'm just ignoring from 2. And we already counted total number of rows, right? So number of rows and plus 1, because the last value will not be considered. So we need to add one more plus 1. So now R is representing the row. So we need to go to the particular row. So let's go to the XPath now. Inspect that element. And so the table, right? So go to the table and this is the XPath. So where we need to go now? So we need to focus on the second column, which is other column, right? So go to T body, inside the T body and tr/td. Now observe this. It is pointing every row and every column in a table, but we don't need that. So we need row and we need which column we need? Only other column we need, which is the second column. So td of 2 I'll mention here. Now we can see this XPath is pointing to only the second column, other column. That's the only column we need for now. Okay. So if I just change the TR number one by one, then what happens? Because I need to get each and every other one by one. First, I want to get first author, Amit, compare with the Mukesh. Not equal, then go to the next value, compare with the Mukesh. And if it is equal, then get the book name. If it is not equal, then again get the another author name. So like this, we need to repeat. So if I just look at the XPath, I'm just putting one TR, let's say 2. Now observe this, it is pointing to first author and capture it. Now I'll change as a 3, then second author, 4, then next one, 5, Mukesh, next one, 6, and then 7. Just by changing the row number, I'm able to get all the others one by one by just changing the row number, right? But column number is same here because we need only other column. We don't need any other columns. So here TD value 2 is a constant. We don't need to change it. We can hard code that value, but the row number we have to change every time. So when I say 1 here, then we will get the first author. What happens? So T body of something went wrong. Book table. Okay, let me write once again. Let me close this first of all. So book table / T body, and inside the T body TRs, inside the T body TD. Now I say TD2 is a constant because we need only other column. Only TR number I want to change. So when I pass 1 here, 1 is not there. So 2, from 2 we have to start. So first element, 3, next other, 4, next other, 5, next other. So just we need to change the row number. Okay. Now use this XPath here. So as soon as you created this for loop, inside this, what I will do is I will write one statement, driver dot find element, driver dot find element. Okay. And by dot XPath and specify that XPath dot text. So currently, which author name it will return? In the second row and second column, author will be returned. So let me just create one variable called author. All right. So now I got an author. We got an author name here. Let's say author name. But we need to get each and every author name from the beginning. From every row, there is an author here. So Amit, Mukesh, Animesh, and so on. So we need to get each and every author name. So how we can change this as a dynamic XPath now? Column value is a constant. We no need to change. Only the row value we have to change. How to pass the row value dynamically? This R value I will substitute here. But we can we do directly like this? No. What we need to do now? We need to convert that into str first. Okay. And after that, what you will do? Put that into double quotation. And after that, use one plus before, and after that one more plus. So this is the syntax. So now I have just passed only R value dynamically, but column value is constant because we need only author name every time in every row. So in the first row, author name we will get. Second row, author name. Third row, author name. Fourth, fifth. In every row, we will get only author name here. And once you get an author name, then what we need to do? Immediately we have to compare this author name equal to Mukesh or not. So we'll use one if condition. If this author name equal to Mukesh. So this is our conditional base. If Mukesh, then what we need to do? If author name equal to Mukesh, immediately what you will do? We have to get the name of the book. If the author name is Mukesh's match, immediately we have to get the name of the book, which is also present in the same row. Remember this. This is a main important point. So whenever your author name is got matched, immediately we have to capture the name of the book, which is also available in the same row here. Right? So what I will do, if the author name equal to Mukesh, if it is matching, then what I will do is I will just write the same XPath here. I will name it as a book name and the same XPath from the same row, but in which column book name is available? In the first column. So here I will just change the column number. Right? So now we can just look at from the same row, we are getting the author name. And if it is matches, then from the same row again, we are getting the name of the book into this variable. Right? If author name is equal to Mukesh, we capture the name of the book. Now immediately what I will do, I will just print here book name. And also, if you want to print author name again, you can just print the author name also, book name and author name. But if you want to give some space between, you can just write one space and then concatenation. Suppose if the author is not matching with Mukesh, then what happens? Then again, these two statements will not execute. It will go up and get another row and get another author and again compare it. If it is not matching, then again another row, get another author name and again compare. If it is matching, then go and get the book name and print the book name along with the author name. So this is how we need to implement the logic. Okay. Now let us execute and see. And like this, it will get each and every author. And immediately, as soon as we get the author name, immediately we are comparing it. If it is matching, then we are getting the book name from the same row here. Whatever row I'm referring here, same row we are referring. The only thing is from the second column, I'm getting author. First column, I'm getting the name of the book. That's the only difference. All right. Now let us execute. Okay, now we can just look at, there are only two books written by Mukesh. Now you can see here, this is a book name and Mukesh. This is another book name which is written by Mukesh. So there are only two book names which are written by Mukesh. Okay, so this is how we can just write the conditions. Suppose I want to print prices also. For example, my requirement is if author is Mukesh, I'm getting the name of the book and then I'm printing the author along with the book name. But I want to print price details also. Price also I want to print along with the author and book name. Then simply how we can change the logic here. So if author equal to Mukesh, we are getting the book name, right? The same way, we should also get the price. Simply we can write the same statement and we can simply say price variable from the same row, and in which column price value is there? 1, 2, 3, fourth column. So simply make it as a 4. So now what happens? If the author equal to Mukesh, then I'm getting the name of the book from the same row. I'm getting the price of the book from the same row. And then I'm printing the price also. Here, give some space. And here I'm printing the price also. So let's execute now. Done. So now we can just look at book name, author name, and also price details. So this is how we can just write the logic, and based on the condition, we can retrieve the rows and columns data from a table. So this is how we need to work with the web table. Okay, this is how we need to work with the web table. Most important, so remember this. Now, I'll show you one more table, which is basically dynamic table, because data is not always same. Data is always keep on changing. So now we'll see how we can work with the dynamic table. So let's go back and I'll show you the table first, and then we'll see how to automate it. And let's go to this Orange HRM application. Okay, so first we'll start with the login. Admin 1, 2, 3. Okay, once you successfully log in, just go to admin tab, user management, and then click on users. So now you can just look at this table here. There are so much data is available, and you cannot see the same data every time. So sometimes you may see only 5 records, sometimes you see 10 records, sometimes you will see 100 records. Okay, so this data is not in our control. So this is consistently changing the data every time. So you will not see the same data every time. So this is more dynamic. All right, so in this table, so what is my requirement is, let us say I have multiple user names and user role, employee name, and status is available. And some of the users are admins, right? So some of the users are admin and some of them are ESS. And some of the mostly every user is enabled state here. You can just look at here. Every user is an enabled state. Okay, and user role is ESS and some of the user role is admin. So forget about user role for now. Let's focus on the status part. So what is my requirement is, I want to find out how many users are enabled and how many are disabled state. So currently every user is enabled in this table. I just want to make some of them are disabled, and then we can do that. So how we can make the users are disabled? You can just select the user like this, or we can just click on the user name and it will open another window. Then click on edit button. You can make it as a disabled. You can do it manually and just disable some of the users, like 2 to 3 users. So now it is disabled. You can just look at here. And let me take one more user, ESS user, and click on edit and then disable and then say save. Okay, so now I have disabled few users. So currently 2 users are in disabled state and rest of them are enabled state. So my requirement is, I need to find out how many total number of employees are there in the table. That's the first thing. Second thing is, how many employees are enabled state and how many employees are in disabled state. So that's what I want to find out from this table. Okay. So here you no need to deal with all the rows and all the columns. So we no need to work with any all columns. So we need only status column. And even we don't need any username columns, nothing. Just we need to find out how many are enabled status are having, how many disabled employees we have in this table. That's the only requirement. Okay. So let's see how we can do this practically. So let's go to PyCharm. And every time the table data will be updating. You don't see the same data every time. So let me just create. So web table underscore, I said dynamic. All right. So as a first step, we will import everything. So we'll import required stuff. So Webdriver service by class, specify the location of the driver, pass the service object, launching your application, then maximize this window. So as soon as you launch your application, so first of all, we need to log into application, right? So we need to do this login first. We need to enter username, we have to enter password, then click on the login. So this is the stuff we have to do. So we already have that code. So let me just copy this. This is the login code. Okay, just finding the username, passing the value, again finding the password, passing the value, clicking on submit button. I'm just waiting for 3 seconds because it will take some time to log in. Import this time model from the time model. Okay, now this is the login process. And once you successfully logged in, we have to do one more thing here. What is that? Go to admin 123 login. Yeah, so as soon as you get this page, you have to go to admin, user management, then we need to click on the users. So admin, user management, and then users, and then only you will get the table, right? So we need to first navigate to these 3 elements. So let us try to identify admin, user management, and then user. So 3 elements we need to identify, and then we need to perform the action, click action on every element. So let's inspect the admin. Okay, so this is the admin element. Okay, and get the XPath of the element. Go to select our hub. So this is giving an XPath, and you can use this XPath, or you can create your own XPath. Okay, so you can just use this one. So till anchor tag, this is given an XPath, you can just use it. Because this is basically a link, or if you want to say /b also, you can specify, no problem. Because inside this, there is a label. B is having just a label. Actually, it is a link. Okay, so this is optional. You can just write a link. One element is matching for admin. Or if you confused about this, simply right click on this, copy XPath. That's it. This will give you an XPath like this. Okay, let's try to do it. So what is the navigation we do? We should go to admin, then user management, and then users. So first admin, driver dot find element by dot XPath. Then this is the XPath for the admin element, and dot and XPath we specified double quotations. Inside the double quotations are not allowed, so we can just use single quotations. And then sorry, this is double quotation and this is single quotation. All right, so once you find that element, then perform the click action, dot click, and this is the admin element. So now we need to go to user management. Go back and inspect this user management and right click, copy XPath. That's the next element. So driver dot find element by dot XPath, and again this should be single quotation. Okay, dot click. So we need to perform another click action on the user management, click. And then the last element is users. After clicking on this, we will get the users. So inspect this users and right click, copy XPath. Driver dot find element by dot XPath, specify the XPath. Again, change into single quotations, dot click. Done. So we have done this action. So admin went to user management and then user. So now we got the table. So our job will start here. So as soon as you get this table like this, so what is the first thing we need to do? So what is main intention to get this? We have to find out how many users are enabled, how many users are disabled. So that's what we need to find out. So we need to go to each and every row and find out in the last column, the status column value we need to capture. So this column value we have to capture from every row. That means we need to repeat every row, and from each row we have to capture the status column value. Now you can tell how many columns are there in the table. How many total number of columns are there in the table? Can you guys guess it? How many columns are there in the table? Total number of columns. So totally 5 columns are there. So including the checkbox column also we have to consider. So 1, 2, 3, 4, totally 5 columns. So now what we need to do, from each and every row, we have to capture the 5th column value, because we need only 5th column value. We don't need other data. We need to repeat each and every row. For that, we have to find total number of rows, and the total number of columns we don't need, because we need to get data only from the status column. So let us try to find the total number of rows, and accordingly we will write a loop statement which will repeat each and every row data. So how to find the total number of rows in this table? Let us try to inspect this element, table element, and you can just look at is a table tag is there. Go to table tag directly. So this table is representing the whole table tag, and there is ID also there, result table. So the ID of the table is result table. So let's write the XPath for that. So / is already given. So this is actually pointing to the table. One element is matching. But what exactly we need? Total number of rows. So if we expand this table, where exactly we find the rows? And you can just look at one more thing in this table. There is some additional tag is added called T-head. T-head is representing the table header. But in the previous table, in our application, we don't have a T-head tag. Instead, they have directly used TR, right? But sometimes you can see T-head tag also, which is basically talking about header part. Inside the T-head, there are TRs, and here you can see TH tag. Each TH is representing table column. But we no need to do anything with this TH. We need to go to T body, because all the rows are present inside the T body. So once you go to the T body, and here you can find all the rows. See this. So TR, all the TRs, each TR is representing a row in a table. So now we need to find out total number of TRs available inside the T body. That is exactly equal to number of rows in a table. So I'm directly going to the TR. So now totally how many are there? Totally 41 elements are there. But again, it is also counting from the table also, right? So what we need to do now, because we say XPath, right? Full XPath here. It's not partial XPath. / TR. So inside the table, because in T-head also there are TRs are there. So which is also counting. But we don't need to count inside the TH tag TRs. So we have to eliminate them. So what we need to do now, we need to just go to table and T body. Then we need to find out the TRs. So here T body is mandatorily required. So T body, inside the T body, so TR. Now 41. So only the table data is counted. So this is exactly equal to number of rows in a table. Let me just count it and get that XPath and find out the rows. Total rows. Total rows in a table. So driver dot find element or find elements. Find elements, because we are getting multiple rows, multiple web elements. So by dot XPath, specify that XPath, and this will give you multiple web elements. So we need to find total number of rows. So include this in the len function. So that will give you total number of rows present in a table. So I can say number of rows. So finally, we find out total number of rows which are available in the table. So what is the next thing? Let me just print also. Print total number of rows in a table. And here I'm just printing number of rows. Okay, so now this will print total number of rows in a table. So now we will get it. So the next thing is we need to repeat each and every row based on the row numbers, total number of rows. We have to repeat each and every row. And in each and every row, we have to capture the status column value. So this is actually 5th column value. Okay, this is the most important. So listen this carefully. Let me just inspect one more time and go to selector hub. And whatever XPath we have written, which is exactly pointing to all the rows, right? So let's go to the table. And this is XPath of the table. So now from each row, we have to capture the status column, right? So how we will get it? First, go to the T body. Okay, now it is pointing to table body. Inside the T body, we need to go to each and every table row, right? So specify /tr. Okay, inside the T body, tr / and inside the tr, there are td tags are there. So td is basically representing the table row. So if I just expand that first tr, there are multiple tds are there. So let me just say td here. Now we can just look at this. It is highlighting each and every row and each and every column. Why? Because we are not specified any index there. We are not specified any specific row and specific column. So that is the reason it is highlighting everything in the table, all the rows and all the columns. But we need to get only status row column. So how we will get it? So we need to just specify the TD number first. Only status we want. So status is actually 5th column. So specify 5 as an index. Now observe, you can see only status column is highlighted. So this is hard coded value. We no need to change this every time because we need only status column value. But how we can read each individual status column one by one? Just by adding the index number of the TR. So when I say 1, now we can see first row status column is highlighted. Now when I say 2, second row status column. When I say 3, third row, fourth row, fifth row. So only row is changing, but status column is same. So now what we need to do is we have to use the same XPath, and to get each and every status, we have to just dynamically pass the row number. That's the only thing we have to do. Okay, then we will get the status values. Now let me just write the loop statement for R in range function. I'm writing range, and again I'm starting from 1 itself. Okay, so because we don't have header part here, 1 comma total number of rows we already counted here. So the last row will not be considered. So I'm just say +1, and here I will write the XPath. So this will give you the status, right? And driver dot find element by dot XPath, specify that XPath dot text, which will give you the value. And what this will return you? This will return the value of the status column. So I can store that in a variable called status. Now every time, okay, so every time we need to pass the row number. So because first round R value 1, so R value we have to substitute as a 1. Then from the 5th column it will capture the status. In the second round of execution, second row. Third round of execution, third row. But column value is always same. Only the row number we have to change. So what we need to do now? We need to pass this R value as a parameter inside the XPath. So how we can pass it? Just say R, convert that into str like this, and then keep that in the double quotation, and then add 1+ operator before and after. So now I pass R value dynamically. So row number we are passing dynamically, and 5th column value is same again. 5 is a constant value. So this will give you status value store here. But as soon as you get the status, what you will do now? So let me just print it first. Okay, then we will see what you need to do with the status. So let me just print the status, and we'll see if we are getting all the status values or not. So it is launching my application, enter username and password, and successfully log in. And go to admin, user management, users, and got the table. Fine. So I hope everybody's fine. So let me just close this. Yeah. Now we can just look at here. We got status column values, all the column values. But this is not our requirement. So what is our requirement? We need to check how many enabled are there, how many disabled are there. So it is not just printing the status. So now what we need to do, as soon as we get the status, we will check if the status value equal to enabled. Okay, status value equal to enabled. Then what I will do is I'll take one simple variable here, count variable, initially 0. And as soon as we found the enable status, then immediately I'll increment the count value by 1. I say count equal to count plus 1. As soon as you found the enable, then the count value will be incremented by 1. And once this loop is repeated, finally, how many total number of enabled status are there? So those many times the count value will be incremented. But once the loop is completed, finally, we can find how many total number of employees are available inside the count variable. Because every time, as soon as you found status is enabled, immediately we're incrementing the count. If it is not matching, then incrementation will not happen. Again, it will get another status value. Again, it will compare it. So this loop will repeat till it reaches the last row in a table. Now, once you come out from this table, once you come out from this loop, what we need to print? Just print total number of, or we can say number of enabled user or employees, or we can say users. And how many are there? Which is exactly equal to count. And similarly, if we want to print the total number of employees, total number of users, including enabled and disabled. So how we can get this? Total number of users. Very simple. So the total number of rows, which are equal to total number of users, right? Total number of users, how many are there in the table? Which is exactly equal to total number of rows. So we can simply print rows value. So now we printed total number of users enabled. Now I want to print the total number of users disabled. So then how we can do it? Number of disabled users. Simply we can say total minus, that means rows minus count. Means count is nothing but a number of users which are disabled, which are enabled, sorry. So this is an expression. So we can just keep it in the bracket, one more bracket like this. So this is the way we can find it. So now finally, I'll close my browser, driver.close. Yeah. Now let's execute the code. So every time you don't see the same data. So after some time, if you just look at here, some data will be gone and some new data will be added. So now you can just look at, so total number of rows in a table, 43. And initially when you're writing your XPath, you can see only 40, right? But the new 3 more rows dynamically added. So total number of rows in a table, 43. And total number of users exactly equal to 43. Number of enabled users are 41. Number of disabled are 2. So 41 plus 2, 43 is exactly correct. So this is how we can just work with the tables, web tables. Okay, most important. And you need to remember the tag names mainly. So what's the tag name for the table? Table tag. Okay, let me write here. You will be able to easily understand. Table is a tag name. And what is the closing tag? Table is a closing tag. And inside the table, what is the tag will be there? T body. Inside the T body only actual data will be there. So this is a closing tag of T body. Now inside the T body, what will be there? TR tags, starting tag and the ending tag. So like this, you can have multiple rows in every table like this. And again, each and every TR, there will be TD tag is available, right? So TD tag is available. So TD is representing table data. TD is representing table data. So HTML is very easy language, guys. If I just look at this, how much easy it is. So slash table data. So we can just write the tag names like this. Basically, it is a tag language. So here actual data will be there. Actual table data we will be having here. So suppose if the table is also having some header, you can see some other tag here before the T body called TH, T header. Okay, T header tag you can see which additional tag. And inside the T header tag, you can see again TR again T th and so on. So this is actual table HTML structure, or we can call it a DOM structure of table, HTML table. So if you are able to understand these tag names, you can easily work with any kind of web tables. Okay, so this is all about web table concept. So now I'll give you one assignment on this. You guys can try this on the web table. Okay, so assignment is again same example. So just go to admin username and user. So you will get this table. So from the same table, what I want to get is I want to find out the user roles. Like I want to print the username and also user role. Okay, first what you will do is from this table, just find or just read only username and user roles, print username and user roles. And then you can do something like suppose there are multiple user roles are there, admins and ESs are there. So my output is I want to print only the users whose role is ESS. I don't want to print admin users. I just want to get the data from the table like usernames and user roles, but user role should be ESS. That's a conditional based retrieving of data. Okay, so I want to print all the usernames, all the user roles, but not all the user nodes. So at the time of reading the user role, again, you have to compare whether that is ESS or not. If it is ESS, then only print the record username along with the user role. And if the user role is admin, then don't print that record and go to the next step and print the another role. So I want to get only username and user role. That's it. Okay, so this is a assignment for you. You guys can try this. So print user name along with the user role if the role is ESS. This is a condition. Okay, so you can just try the same example, but you need to slightly do some change in the logic, and accordingly you can do that. And this is a more dynamic table, guys. Don't expect the same data will be there every time. Sometimes you can see only 5 rows. And but still we can add some data in the table. We can modify these data. Everything we can do in this application. So we have all the options available here. Okay. So that is all about web tables. In the tomorrow session, we will discuss one more type of element. All right. So I'm stopping here for today's session. So we will continue in the tomorrow session.